All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Good evening, everybody, to DAB 4, April 6th, 2026. First off, go ahead and kind of just make introductions. We have a lot of new faces kind of coming across the DAB. I'll go ahead and start. I'll state my name and region that I'm representing. My name is Gage Hunt, and I am from kind of 47th.
My name is Simon Lonnie. I live on campus at Friends University. So
Jim Johnson, I live at Mason Kellogg.
I'm Gordy Dornbos. I live around Connie and 119.
Josh Shorter, I live at 151st and Main.
Wally Bell, I live on 119th and Pawnee in the west side.
Trisha Davey.
We're introducing ourselves and where we live.
All right, with all introductions, if y'all could all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Okay, so starting off, I have a little agenda for today, April 6, 2026. Can I get a motion
I'll make the motion.
and a second? Then approval of minutes of March 4th, 2026. Can I get a motion?
Make the motion.
All right, it does not look like Clerk Rice is on just yet, so we'll forward that. And moving on to staff reports, Wichita Fire.
Evening. My name's Matt Bowen. I'm battalion chief running out of Firehouse 2. In the back, we have a special operations captain, Nico McGee. Between the two of us, almost 65 years. So seen a few things, seen a lot of changes in the city and our department. Provided some handouts on the back desk and to the board members. Basically has District 4 stats up here this month. Last month. Put my glasses on here. Year to date, 2026, and then 2025's first quarter incidents, so it's kind of comparison basis for you. Also, through Brooke, we have a DAB report, and it talks about significant alarms, also some of the ongoing items with the fire department. I'm not going to go through a lot of this. First handout basically has some of the fire department news. So right now, hot topic's been some of our station closures and relocations, older remediation. So we're happy to say that Firehouse 15 was reopened in March. Currently, Firehouse 11 relocated to our regional training center on East 31st Street South. Firehouse 3 got great news today. They finished the remediation there. Crews were able to be back in their station full time today. So we're continuing the remediation efforts, and we're extremely appreciative of that. Latest news, and I'm not sure if it's since the last DAB meeting or not. Fire Chief Snow, who's been with our department for 38 years, she recently announced her retirement effective the end of July. So Fire Chief Snow, she worked herself up through operations at every level: firefighter, lieutenant, captain, and she shift commander, operations chief, and she became a fire chief 9.5 years ago, 2017. So illustrious career, and wish her well, and 38 years of incredible time to serve the community. Right now, captain and lieutenant promotional exams are ongoing. Wrap them up this next week at the regional training center. Have 40 lieutenant candidates and 30 captain candidates going through that process next week. Lot of hard work. The process this next week is a hands-on type. They've taken a written portion of it, they qualified, and they move on to this hands-on portion of it. So, remember, we've been working really hard, as always. So, I normally don't present it at District 4, helping Chief Ritter out. He's at District 5 right now. But one of the things I always provide as a handout and talk about is close before you doze. Doesn't matter how many times I interact with the public, it's something you in your home, an action you can do that potentially save your life. So close before you doze is a national program. Wichita Fire Department, CRRD, adopted it 4 or 5 years ago. And essentially, it's as simple as closing your door when you go to bed at night. Closing that bedroom door, they've shown where a hollow core bedroom door can hold fire back on one side of it for over 10 minutes. So your fire department, depending on the fire, not always can you go in and out your front and back doors or whatever. We do targeted searches. And what you do by closing that door is you shut yourself off from all that heat, smoke, and toxic gases. And it buys yourself time. And what we do as a fire department is we search searchable spaces. And what that means, it's all other means. If we do a lap, a 360 recon around that house, and there's fire outside of every door and outside of every window but one, we're going to assess that one window and take it out. And we're going to enter there. We're going to search that searchable space. So, can't speak to it enough. Close before you doze. There's some pictures also that illustrate, completely burnt out rooms and hallways on the burn side. And here's the bedroom that just barely has smoke damage. So that's one of the things I always hit on and preach about. But the next item I always try to hit on is, and we recently had the time change in March. Yeah, battery powered smoke detectors, change your batteries. We do it when we change our clocks for when we spring forward, when we fall back for daylight savings. Every level of your home, every room a person sleeps in should have a smoke detector. So we have a CRD, community risk reduction program through the city of Wichita Fire Department, that if you can't afford smoke detectors, if you need assistance putting smoke detectors in, call the 455 City Hall to Fire Department headquarters. Get in touch with, they'll direct you to our community risk reduction. They'll set an appointment, do an evaluation, help install those smoke detectors. The last one I won't go into too much is that time of year, grill safety. And making sure we don't have our grill right up against our home. Just again, this time of year, oftentimes it's low humidity. Things haven't completely greened up yet. Risk for fire is really elevated. So I'll take any questions if you have any questions.
Comments, questions from the board? Public? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on with staff reports, Wichita PD.
I'm Officer Jameson with Pro South CP. Just go over some stats real quick with you. Looks like right now robberies are down 33%. Part 1 violent crime offenses are going to be up 84% currently. Assaults are 74%. Looks like burglaries are down 30%. Larcenies are up 10%. Our total property, Part 1 property crimes are down 3% total. Currently Currently, in our academy class, we have 39 recruits going through, 6 of those being females. During week 12, they're going to be doing 911 scenarios, mock training this week. I know some of the crime trends that have been going on, which you may touch on this a little more, is it's getting warm out. So you guys have noticed the dirt bikes and all those little mini bikes and things like that. We are aware of that. We're trying to do what we can to try and address that the best we can. Some of the events that are coming up, I know one of the big ones that we have down south and the whole city will be involved department-wide is Riverfest, which that's supposed to start sometime at the end of May or beginning of June. And then County South will be getting a new CP officer this Saturday. That'll be Officer Kozak, so he may stop in here and visit you guys on the following meeting. And I'll turn it over to him.
I'm Officer Perkins. I'm stationed out of the Patrol West Bureau. I'll touch a little bit on his stats. The aggravated assaults, which were up, and sometimes we don't like to say 74% because it sounds like, wow, 74%. Sometimes we have stats that are up 200%, and what we had was we had 0 and then we went to 2. Not saying that he did it. He's a little nervous. But what we had was on the aggravated assaults, we went from 23 to 40, but of those, 13 were domestic violence related. That's a known victim and a known suspect, and that went up from 9 to 13. Not a whole lot, but we did have an increase in domestic violence and also firearm displayed. You know, for whatever reason, we have a lot of people driving down the road, and we like to road rage, and we don't just wave at people anymore. We point handguns at them for some reason, and that went up from 5 to 13. So that was a pretty good increase. And I can't tell you which of these stats are in the Patrol West Bureau and the Patrol South Bureau, because as a DAB, you guys are combined into both bureaus. So I don't have the stats on whether they're all out west. They're probably all down south. But that's just my guess without really looking into it. And the larcenies, they went up from 136 to 149, and shoplifting went from 58 to 66. So shoplifting, we did have an increase there. When he, I'm old.
No, you're good.
What else did you say I was going to talk about?
The dirt bikes.
The dirt bikes and stuff. We did have a complaint, and that's an all over thing. But we have way out west, we have a lot of golf cart complaints, a lot of mini bikes, and I'm talking what we think of as a mini bike, just a little bitty Briggs and Stratton full type mini bikes driving down the road. When I was working the St. Patrick's Day parade, saw them just driving up and down Seneca, 4-wheelers up and down Seneca. A lot of complaints like that. Officer Soto was out in Southern Ridge today, has been stopping individuals that in that particular area they have a lot of complaints. We've done education out west in reference to golf carts. Golf carts are legal with a whole lot of parameters on what makes them not illegal. I did put some golf cart flyers on the very back table back there. I'll touch on a little bit of the golf carts. Got to educate yourself, but there's a lot more. You have to have a driver's license to be driving a golf cart. Can't be using it to drive to Sonic because you're 13 years old. A scenario, we catch a person 13 and under driving, a parent is liable to get a citation for that. Can't ride on a sidewalk. Must have insurance. And if anybody's ever seen the 3-seaters or 6-person, not 3 rows, I'm sorry, 3 rows, that's not a golf cart according to the city. So you went out because they passed an ordinance that said you can drive a golf cart around your neighborhood and you thought you're going to get the biggest, fanciest one and get 3 rows, probably ought to trade it in, because no matter what, even if you're licensed, have insurance, have all the good stuff you're supposed to have on that, not riding it on a sidewalk, it's not considered a golf cart, and that is illegal in nature just in itself. Talk about Second Chance Thursday. Real short what that is. We take care of low-level city warrants. We held it at the Carl Brewer Community Center on March 26th. Had 155 people that came in. Had 44 people that we assisted with, but we cleared 55 warrants. One individual had 8 or 9 warrants. So we cleared those warrants. We also have the DMV there, and they saw 132 people, and it's kind of, usually they don't give out this many, but they gave out 21 restricted driver's licenses and 12 individuals had their driver's licenses reinstated completely. The next event's going to be in probably the end of June, early of July. We don't have that set in stone yet. That was a great location, but we try to spread the wealth out, pick different locations, but it was such a great location. I'm not going to say we're going to go back there, but that's a possibility. And that was all I have. Does anybody have any questions
Lots of questions from the board.
for the officer in Control South? Because I know nobody's got any questions for Control Back. So, nothing?
Any comments or questions from public?
All right, appreciate it. We do have additional stats I laid on this table. For anybody in the audience, you want the crime stats, they're right here. Golf cart stats are back here. Thank you.
And right before we go to you, we had a scheduled agenda item. Looks like Clerk Bryce is available at this time.
Yes, if everybody can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I'm just gonna administer the oath that we have to do yearly. Repeat after me. I state your name. You solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the District 4 Advisory Board for the City of Wichita, Kansas, so help me God.
So help me God.
Perfect. And then there's paperwork for you guys to sign, and then just give it to Brooke and she'll get it back to me, okay? Thank you.
Other
Hey,
officials.
I'm online here, so don't forget me, Harry Willis.
All right, and library.
Evening, I'm Steve Hammerski. I'm the Outlet Branch Library Manager. Welcome. If you haven't been here before. The 2026 Big Read Wichita kicked off on Sunday, March 29th at the Maya Angelou Branch Library, where attendees were given a review of the Rise Community Garden. Listened to live poetry readings and were given free copies of this year's selected reading, Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude by Ross King. Programming will continue through April 26th with important conversations and engaging activities centered around the book's theme. Culminating keynote event is at 4 p.m. on Saturday, April 18th at the Advanced Learning Library. For live poetry readings from local poets with a panel discussion to follow, please visit bigreadwichita.org to learn more. Friends of the Wichita Public Library is partnering with a couple of local breweries to celebrate the library's 150th anniversary. To start, Bright Pro Cidery is hosting them from 1 to 5 p.m. on Sunday, April 12th. Commemorative pours of cider are available to purchase for $15 and come with a special pint glass to take home. Additionally, the Friends will have blind date with the book bundles available to purchase. Books are wrapped up, so you'll have to choose based on only the genre and short synopsis, putting the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover, to the test. Books are available for purchase at $5 and $20 options. The Friends are also excited to partner with Central Standard Brewing on April 26th from 12 to 5 p.m. A special batch crafted for the library's 150th called the Bibliomaniac will be on tap. Library-themed merchandise will also be available for purchase. To celebrate National Library Week, Wichita Public Library is hosting author Pete Davis, whose book, dedicated The Case for Commitment in an Age of Infinite Browsing, sparked a national conversation about commitment, participation, and community. Will visit us for an engaging conversation about why choosing something meaningful and sticking with it still matters. Davis will be joined by Wichita and Danielle Johnson for a conversation about what commitment looks like in practice. Together, they will explore how long-term dedication strengthens organizations, builds trust, and helps communities thrive. At the event, the library also launched the Civic Action Passport in partnership with the City of Wichita, Kansas Leadership Center, and Lead Wichita. This initiative is designed to encourage people across Wichita to participate in community life through simple, meaningful actions. The Civic Action Passport will highlight opportunities throughout the city, from attending community events to volunteering and engaging with local organizations. Please visit wichitalibrary.org events to register or seat at the Pete Davis and Author event. Who says only kids get to have spelling bees? Fly solo or swarm as a team of up to 4 contestants at Wichita Public Library's 4th annual Adult Spelling Bee. Teams will compete in single air elimination rounds of increasing difficulty until only one team remains. The event is free, but registration is required. Only one person per team needs to register, but please list all your team members as guests to ensure that there are enough available seats. Side registration will be available at the evening of the event beginning at 5:30, and join us from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Friday, April 17th at the Advanced Learning Library. Some Alfred specific items. We had 5,403 people come into the library last month, up from 3,412 in 2025. I will say about 500 of that was the election that we had on the 3rd. So our circulation went up also. We had 6,551 items checked out, and last year we had 4,614 items checked out. Some of the events that we have for the Big Read, we are exploring poetry styles on Saturday, April 11th for grades 6 through adult. We have Squishmallow portraits on Sunday, April 12th for grades 3 through 12. Third place on Meridian is on Tuesday, April 14th for adults. The community puzzle time from grades 6 through adults is on Thursdays, April 16th and April 30th. And then Creative Dreams Puppet Theater preschool which is for preschool through the 2nd grade, is on Wednesday, April 22nd. As always, our knitting group meets on Wednesdays from 10 to noon. They're always happy to teach people how to knit or crochet or any other needlework. And then don't forget, next DAB meeting, the City of Wichita HR will have a small mini job fair out here in the lobby of the library. So that's everything.
Any comments, questions from the board? From the public? All right, moving on to public agenda, scheduled item, Sheila Officer for the Racial Profiling Advisory Board. We'll move on to Nancy Bradley, Animal Control Advisory Board.
I was here last month and gave a report on the majority of our 2020 stats, and I was asked about euthanasia rates. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Our total cat intakes in 2025 was 3,710. The return to owner was only 113 cats, which is roughly 3%. And that's 2 to 3% is usually the national average. Euthanasia, there were 923 cats euthanized, which is a 24.88%. Now, there are different categories of why animals are euthanized. Two of the categories, one is KDA medical reasons. That accounted for 476 of those euthanasias. For cats, it's upper respiratory illnesses. We're not allowed to send them to a rescue or to foster. And then the other large one was Mercy, which was 429. For cats, the number one reason is neonates. And last month when I was here, I talked about a bill, SB 344, I think, that was going through the state legislature. And so far, it passed in the Senate, and the House, I don't think ever heard it. There is a chance this week, and it's the last chance, and I think it's through the committee. I don't know, I'm still learning about this date. If they would pass that, as long as there were rescues, and there are rescues and fosters that will take care of neonates, the shelters, you don't have the staff. They have to be fed every 1 to 2 hours. It's just not feasible, especially when you have that many in one. So if you took those numbers out, the euthanasia for cats is less than 1%. The other categories is behavior, and that's an animal that is not a candidate for an open adoption. KHS does have a behavior modification program, but the numbers that they can take are limited just due to space. If they can't take them, there are some rescue groups who have some more extensive screening, but if they're full, which a lot of them are, but there were 6 behavior cats euthanized last year. Medical issues, there were 12. That is when there is a significant medical issue. The funds aren't available, or KHS doesn't have the time or the space or the veterinarian or the money. And then again, they'll go to a rescue if there is a rescue that can take them. And like I said, there were only 12. Okay, and resources, there were 0. And that was it for cats. Okay, the total dog intake was 4,945. Return to owner was 1,434, which is 29%. Since the city passed the law that your animals need to be chipped, that has increased the return to owner. A lot more people are doing that, and KHS has done some low cost, and so have some of the other rescues on a regular basis. So you can take, I think it's $15 at shelter. Anyway, okay, so euthanasia was 667, which is a 13.49%. KDA MRA or MR was 301, and Mercy was 124. Usually the animals that are Mercy, the dogs that are Mercy, they either have parvo, which if they have parvo, because it is so contagious, they are euthanized immediately, because there used to be a place that took them, and now it's against KDA regulations. The other reason is they're just emaciated, and they're just in really, really bad condition, and the likelihood that they would survive is minimal. So if you took those 2 numbers, that's a total of 425, which would actually lower the euthanasia rate to 4.8%. Behavior, there were 101, and medical 59, resources 82. Now on for resources, there's no available opening at rescues. KHS is closed, and WAS doesn't have any room and the time. I'm sure you've heard on the news lately that their numbers, the number of animals being brought in is just, the numbers are going up sooner, and I think because of the warmer weather, usually it doesn't happen until later in the spring, and then summertime is the worst because there's a lot of dogs. I know one time I was texting with Emily, and she said we had 23 dogs yesterday come in, and I said, well, how many were strays? And she said all but 1. And so there's that issue. Does anybody have any questions?
Any comments, questions from the board? From the public? All right, moving to off agenda items. Now, this is a time for the public to speak. If you've not signed up to do so or anything, or if you are not speaking on behalf of any of the other situations that are going on, you can do so at this time. Anybody? All right, proceeding. New business, Housing Annual Action Plan 2026-2027. Did everybody get the video that Brooke shared with us? So I don't think we have to go through the whole PowerPoint, but if you want to highlight some stuff. My assistant tonight.
Didn't do it any other way. Okay.
So my name is Andrew Tyree. I'm with the Housing and Community Services Department with the City of Wichita. I'm a management analyst for the department. And as Gage mentions, I'm here to talk today about the 26-27 annual action plan for entitlement grants, CDBG, home, and ESG. Just real quick, some background for y'all in case you're not familiar. We as a city, we receive an annual allocation of these funds. These are for community development activities. These funds are directly, they come from the Housing and Urban Development, otherwise known as HUD. I'm sure everybody's heard of HUD before. These funded activities, we align them to the city's goal of creating a livable and a sustainable community. And these funds are used to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. Just real quick, we have two different plans that we operate off of. One is our consolidated plan. The consolidated plan is a 5-year plan that we have to submit every 5 years to HUD. Basically, what that plan does is it identifies community development needs, affordable housing needs, homeless needs, and other priorities within the city. Basically, it shows what we as a department are going to try to do in the next 5 years. So it kind of gives a plan for the next 5 years. So every single year we have to submit to HUD what is called an annual action plan. And that's why I'm here today. But this plan details projects and activities that we plan to set forth during the next program year. The program year runs from July 1st through June 30th. So that program year will be starting here in a couple of months. And this plan is also, it serves as the application for funding for federal entitlement for all the federal entitlement programs listed on the next slide, which is CDBG, Home, and Emergency Solutions Grant. So again, just real quick, these 3 entitlement grants, CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant, we can use these for a wide range of community development activities. It is by far the most flexible grant that we have. There's a lot of different things that we can use that for. Home Investment Partnership, our home program, we only can use that for affordable housing needs. So the creation of affordable housing, the rehabilitation of affordable housing, that all falls into the home program. And then ESG is Emergency Solutions Grant, and that is strictly just to use to address the homelessness. So if you want to skip through, yeah, so actually let's go all the way towards the this slide deck, y'all. I think y'all have it in the handouts. So if you go all the way to so we're in the public comment period for our annual action plan right now. The public comment period runs from March 27th through May 4th. So midnight, May 4th. We're taking this to council on May the 5th. We'll be at the city council meeting on that day. Sitting up all the data to just, receive any feedback that you all might have regarding this, funding allocation, these funding programs and what we've set forth. The plan is available to view if you go forward one slide. The full plan is on our website, so please check that out if you're interested. My contact information is also on the screen. If you have any feedback, what you would like to see as a community, how these funds can be utilized, please send me a message via email. You can also call me or you can send me a letter. I would probably lean towards email. Stamps are expensive, so send me an email or give me a phone call. That plan is available. The whole plan is online, so yeah, so work to check that out. But I know as a dad, y'all got the full presentation. So if there's any feedback or questions y'all might have, I'll be happy to take that.
I will say, I sat on that council for, well, not last year, but the previous year. And just thank you for all you and your team. So
The grants review, yeah. I think Wally was one of our District 4 rep this time around. We appreciate Wally's service to that. He was a very important part of that. So, but yeah, it can be a tough, that particular committee has a tough job, so certainly.
it's just a lot of sleepless nights. All right. Any comments or questions from the board? From the public? All right. Moving on with new business. So staff would like to present CUP 2026-0006.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Ziebenbergen. I'm Exhibit Manager for the Fulton Area Planning Department. The first item before you tonight is Community Unit Plan 2606. It's a request to amend the community unit plan at 13801 West Maple Street. It is CUP 225. It's currently located on the south side of West Maple, and the parcel in question, or parcels in question, are about a quarter mile west of South 135th Street West. The request is to essentially modify screening requirements as it relates to community unit plan parcels. Go to its page. Okay. So within a community unit plan, there are development parcels. These might be multiply owned by the same person. They might be independent of who owns them, but either way, what we're interested in is particularly parcel 4 there on the west, but it also slightly relates to parcel 1, as I'm going to hopefully outline in a non-confusing way in the presentation today. They are currently under the same ownership. Parcel 1, so the one slightly towards the middle, is developed with a Dollar Tree retail store. And the request is to waive some of the general provisions or the rules that the community unit plan has on top of the regular zoning as it relates to parcel 4, but that's just because parcel 4 is not developed. And so some of these things that they're looking to waive relate to being constructed on parcel 4 because of Dollar Tree being on parcel 1. That makes sense. So in the general provisions, so general provisions are rules within the community plan that are above and beyond the standard zoning rules, because these are zone limited commercial, and then you have a community unit plan on top of it. So it's like an overlay. Paragraph in question states, in the event a single tenant building greater than 8,000 square feet is built, trash receptacles, loading docks, outdoor storage, and loading areas are appropriately screened with similar materials to the main building to reasonably hide them from ground view, and shall be prohibited within 50 feet of residentially developed property. So we're going to scroll up one aerial with some drawing on it. Okay. So the undeveloped property on the left-hand side of the screen is parcel 4, or the majority of parcel 4, and what's on the right-hand side of the screen is the Dollar Tree property on parcel 1. The boundary between parcel 1 and 4 goes down the middle of the driveway. It's a shared driveway between the two of them, so you don't have one access point off of Maple. And so in order to screen the loading area, which is the blue square in the corner of the Dollar Tree store, they would have to construct essentially a masonry wall, because the building is made of masonry materials, everywhere where you see red lines. I worked with the zoning administrator, and according to his interpretation of what would properly screen the loading area would be essentially constructing a wall where there are red lines. The green lines, the one at the more left-hand portion, those are the trash receptacles. They already have a wall around them except for the front gate. And then you have HVAC equipment on the back of the store, which are screened with a fence. Those didn't require a wall, they just need to be screened. So, all of that to say, because the farthest left portion of the red is technically on parcel 4, they're needing to request the waiver of that screening because in order to adequately screen the loading area, that screening would be built on parcel 4. Does that make sense? Not really reading through my staff report, I'm just trying to do a high level overview. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Overall, staff is ready to make an analysis. Here's where the rub is. Parcel 4 is not developed. Parcel 4 could be developed with a commercial building. If you waive this paragraph as it relates to parcel 4, yeah, it would take care of this situation here, where my understanding is there could be a building built there. They're worried about conflicts of future construction and having to build a wall now only to have to possibly tear it down for future construction on parcel 4. But if we waive the whole paragraph, that means if there's a building built on parcel 4, then they don't have to follow this rule anymore. You know, the intention was to address this issue between where Dollar Tree's loading area is, but the way the application was submitted would actually remove these rules from any type of development on parcel 4, which is the nearest to the residential properties. And so staff is not in support because of how it was written. So a really long history, case history on this. A retail store is permitted. We're not allowed to say, well, this retail is and that retail isn't. So when it comes to, there was initial issues with Dollar Tree going in, a lot of it was related to the architecture that was handled through the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then most recently, there was a couple administrative requests to modify these screening requirements. And because of the controversy that was created by it when these signs were posted, staff doesn't administratively approve things that get controversial. That's just not our place. We don't want to be, we want that to go before the public hearing process because that's where controversy needs to be aired out, and it should be a staff decision on if something is controversial. So that's where we are today. Is the application started out as an administrative request because of the public comment that we heard. We decided it needed to be an amendment. Overall, commercial uses were deemed appropriate in this area, including retail stores. And these rules that we're talking about tonight were set up back in like 1996. So the idea of commercial development next to the residential were deemed appropriate at that time, but these rules were applied to it, which is also the reason staff is recommending denial, because this paragraph that they're looking on specifically relates to if you waive it, they can have a loading on the west side of the new building. But if you keep it, then the loading has to be on the east side because it can't be within 50 feet. Plus, we want those things screened from ground view. So, again, overall, staff is recommending denial. You should have in your packet a fair amount of public comment that we received. I believe we have most of those folks here tonight, so I won't speak for them. They'll be able to share their reasons for their opposition with you. And we do have the agent for the applicant here tonight as well. In Edgington, if you have any questions or want to hear from her directly. With that, I can stay for any questions.
Any comments, questions from the board?
First of all, they have a wall like they do behind Auburn Spirits in there between Auburn Hills or whatever the development is along there. They got a 50-foot space behind the Dollar Tree store that just collects, gonna be a collection point for trash. Wind blows in there, and these wooden fences that they have in Auburn Hills homes look like crap for that type of a neighborhood. Why don't they just put a wall all the way along there where the doctor moved from or the dentist moved from? So those buildings back right up to the property line of the golf course, and their trash containers are out next to the back of the property line. There's no 50-foot gap between that. And the other thing is, you know, the dentist complied with everything when they built that building. but they don't have any sidewalk in front of it. To get from, the sidewalk where they were, the Dollar Tree store, you gotta walk through a ditch and up a hill. They should have had to pay for a sidewalk across the front of that dental thing to connect with the other two sidewalks.
I'm not knowledgeable enough, and I don't want to take the time to talk about the sidewalk portion of it. Regarding the wall in the back, the way the CUP was written, I don't believe that the wall was required there. Actually, there was a request in the case history regarding just parcel one, so the Dollar Tree parcel. Because of that CUP was written, it was permitted that a wall was not required back there because it would only be for the one parcel and just be a wall to nowhere and really blocking nothing. So they're not required to have a wall behind Dollar Tree.
Well, they ought to, like they do, there's no problem like this over on the east side behind the shopping mall there, Open Spirits.
I understand. I'm just saying by the nature of the community plan, they're not required to. We're here to talk about the screening wall that would be required for the loading area and the trash receptacles. But they're two separate things, and that's kind of off in a different area. Back to what's required by the CUP plan, what the request is for tonight.
Yeah, well, when they rezoned commercial, the section there in Pawnee and 119th Street, which my property backs up to, I got a requirement in there that they had to put up an 8-foot concrete wall all around that property. So I didn't have trash blowing onto my property, whatever.
I'm bringing us into the focus of the request tonight is for the screening related to loading area of Dollar Tree and all the other things that either would have to comply with or it's been ruled or the CUP in this area does not require it like it would, or like the CUP or the commercial area by yours. This one doesn't require it like that.
Next question, another question from Joshua.
Yes, they understood the screening requirements when they built the building.
I'll defer to you on that. I won't speak on whether or not they understood something.
It was in the.
It was in the CUP, yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
what I'm asking.
It hasn't changed since the CUP. Those rules were there since 1996.
Any other questions from the board? Would the applicant or agent like to speak on behalf? Stay here.
Kim Edgington, PSC Consulting Agent for the applicant. First, just want to clear up a little bit of confusion here. We are certainly not asking to waive the restrictions for parcel 4 for any other requirements. The 50-foot restriction on loading docks would still be in place. I believe you were given some alternative language that we had submitted today that makes it very clear. We are in agreement that we could put to restrict no loading docks on the west side. We put that aerial photo.
Page 13.
So the shared driveway that goes between these two parcels is meant to serve both parcels. There would be no reason for a loading dock to be constructed on the west side of parcel 4. It is going to use that existing driveway. So the loading dock or loading area for parcel 4 will be located immediately adjacent to the loading area for the Dollar Tree. So that was why we specified that language. The only thing that we are asking through this request is to waive the red lines, essentially these red lines on this map. With the property line boundary being right here, this building, when this building gets built, is likely to be right on this property. So any wall or screening that gets built is going to someday be torn down. So initially we had asked for that to be allowed to be a wood fence. So it would be a less expensive material in the eventual circumstance that it would be torn down. The other red line that's going east and west, if there were screening there, it is impossible to reach the trash enclosure. So that is, just logistically not something that would work on this site. In order to keep the trash all the way into the enclosure back, hidden out of sight, it is enclosed. You look at the pictures on your staff report, you can see that that has a concrete masonry wall all the way around it, except for the doors, which couldn't be masonry in order to access the trash. So, and there is no loading dock on this property. It is simply 2 doors. There is 1 delivery per week made of inventory to this site on Thursday mornings. So it is not something that is used continually or even on a daily basis. There will be, when parcel 4 is developed, a requirement for a masonry wall on the very west edge of the property, as you see in a lot of subdivisions all around town. The difference on the south side is because there are no homes to the south. That is the golf course maintenance area. So that is kind of why that requirement is not in place for this particular CUP. And you're correct in stating that there are other properties within this CUP that have not required with conditions of the community unit plan, including the construction of a sidewalk and including the requirement that driveways be connected, that there be connectivity through this entire project. Other uses have not complied with those requirements also. So just to kind of get back to the main point of this request, we are asking simply that the screening from those red lines be waived for this portion of the CUP. I believe there was a photo that we submitted. Is that available on display?
By staff report, Brooke, she emailed it separately.
Okay, yeah, I emailed it to you last week.
The photo of imposed a screening wall and
that red line, what that would accomplish.
What is the space behind?
At this time, we were on the comment. Thank you.
I had sent it to you and copied Brooke in on, I'm not sure why that didn't. Essentially, a screening wall, if we could get, there's one photo that shows maybe it was submitted by one of the neighbors that is down in the materials.
Is this the photo you're talking about?
Yes, that is the,
Page 11 of the staff report.
drop that down just a little bit. So this is the height that the screening wall would be. It would, at this point of the building. So if you were to build the required screening wall, that would be the extent of that wall, which is approximately, for a masonry wall of that height and size, $150,000 investment. So as a developer, the return or the benefit of that screening wall is very hard to justify then when that's going to be torn down at some point when parcel 4 gets built on and developed, and parcel 4 then will be building for parcel 4 be between the homes and the loading dock. There will be the masonry screening wall. So that was the crux of this request. Certainly not to eliminate the 50-foot requirement for any loading docks to be distanced away from housing. So we respectfully ask that you consider that all of those circumstances, the fact that, that we have complied with every other condition, all of the screening, that the HVAC equipment is screened, the trash enclosures are screened. We, at our expense, constructed the sidewalk in front of our property. We're unable to connect it to the existing sidewalks at this point. We did pave all the way up to the edge of our property to accomplish the cross access. But that is also not being enforced at this point either. And I would be glad to stand for any questions that you might have.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Do you know an estimated date when parcel 4 will be constructed on?
That property is being actively marketed, and honestly, as the developer, the sooner the better. There are very few remaining vacant parcels. There's a lot of development going on in this general vicinity, so we hope that it will be very soon.
But it's not your client's development, it's another.
But we own that property as well. Yeah, it's under common ownership, and that is why, as it's outlined in the staff report, it would be allowed to provide that screening or the Dollar Tree property on another parcel because we own both parcels.
Any other questions? At this time, we'll hold questions from the public and we'll leave public comment after questions. Yes, sir.
Quick question for Kim. Just real quick, there was a question asked by a board member earlier. Did the developer know, or did the city require any type of screening on this at the time of certificate of occupancy and permitting?
Well, I think there was some general misunderstanding about why would there be a screening of a loading area required when there's going to be a building in between this development and the housing. So the city of Wichita did grant a certificate of occupancy and full building permit without that screening in place. So it wasn't until later on, I think through a complaint basis, that this was brought to our attention.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So why is the 50 feet behind, or the 100, I think there's about 100 feet behind the building empty, and why is the trash receptacle back there?
The trash receptacle is attached to the building, so at the closest point where the trash can be deposited from those rear doors. There's a building setback behind the building. That's separation between this property and the property to the south. We aren't required to build on that. It's an open space. It's got trees planted in there and landscaping. Is that your question?
No, like, why is the trash receptacle there? Why is it behind the building? That it would be shielded.
Because for circulation of trash trucks, and so that they don't have to back all the way around a building. It's the most accessible place.
They have the back there every morning, because I go to work every morning and I see them and hear them backing in every morning.
There's twice a week trash disposal on this lot, and it's very, I mean, if you look at retail and commercial businesses all over the city, they're going to be very similarly situated to this.
Well, one of your issues was that if that screening wall was up, the trash would not be accessible by pickup. But you could move that, very easily be moved to those back doors rather than the side doors.
What could be moved?
The trash receptacle. So then they would be.
Receptacle, that the walls are already built.
I understand that, but you said that you couldn't build that screening wall because the trash would not be accessible.
Right.
For
We go
pickup.
back to the one with the red lines. These are the doors for the trash receptacle. This is where the trash trucks back up. If
But
this-
could that be moved to the back so that they could access it from the side rather than having, could they not come through that wall to the back of the building rather than have the trash sitting?
I'm not sure if you understand, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it costs to build a trash enclosure that's already built. And been approved by the city. The circulation plan was approved by the city. So, if that had been a desire to move it to a different location, that would have been taken care of through the building permitting process.
Any other questions from the public? I know probably a lot of you wish to speak on this matter. We will go ahead and allow you to do so. We will allow 5 minutes per person. And if you would like to speak, please approach at this time. And if you wouldn't mind, please state your name and address for your record.
Put my PowerPoint. And you control the PowerPoint. Good evening. My name is Mohammed Eftekhari. Can everyone hear me okay? I am, my wife and I, we own Auburn Family Dental, which is located immediately east of the Dollar Tree and the vacant parcel. And I'd like to start by saying, this amendment, we approve it, doesn't have any kind of restrictions. So what that means is what the applicant is proposing, saying, hey, we promise that we won't put trash or unscreened storage or loading areas 50 feet from people's homes. That means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. They can't get their application right. Why are we even considering this? Because their application removes all of these protections that me as a CUP member is depending upon, but also what the neighbors are depending. So with that said, I'd like to say that the city planning staff, they got this right. They officially recommended you deny this amendment. Removing this wall and trash requirement will put trash and outdoor storage 50 feet from these people's homes. As the staff report plainly states, this causes detrimental visual impacts and directly violates the city's comprehensive plan. So let's look at the true motive behind this request. This isn't proactive city planning. It's an attempt to erase an active violation. Timeline is clear. The developer ignored 2 separate notices of violation from the city. Finally, in November 2025, the city filed a municipal criminal complaint against them. They're standing before you today asking you to change the rules simply because they refuse to comply with the law they are currently being prosecuted under. Beyond the legal violations, this is a severe public safety issue. Second slide, please. So on the second slide, we have a picture of the semi-truck loading area, parking stalls, and the loading doors. So let me tell you how these semi-trucks access the Dollar Tree. They stop on Maple, they block east and west traffic, and then they back up blindly, loading. There's a sidewalk there, there's customer parking stalls, there's kids walking around the area, customers walking around the area, and you have a 70-foot semi-truck reversing, not being able to see, and there's no screening. So it's a severe public safety issue. It's an active retail lot. It's not an isolated industrial dock. Passenger cars and pedestrians are sharing a drive with 70-foot semi-trucks bursting with massive blind spots. OSHA reports over 800 loading area accidents involving serious injuries and fatalities in areas just like this. People get crushed and killed when semi-trucks are forced to back up into unprotected spaces like this. So I'm gonna ask you as members of the DAP, $150,000 for a wall, someone's life, their limbs, their arms, their future, because it's inconvenient to put up a screening wall. That's the calculus we have to make. The staff report specifically weighs the public's health, safety, and welfare against the hardship on the developer. The staff officially noted that approving this is a detriment to the public welfare. What is the developer's hardship? The report states that denying this amendment is merely an economic loss for the applicant. This goes far beyond just visual impacts, direct public safety. We're being asked to sacrifice the safety and welfare of our community to save the developer from financial expense. Slide 3, please. The most frustrating part is that this fix is incredibly simple. Applicant owns both parcels. They have plenty of land. All they need to do is shift the property line and build a safe loading area. Bottom line is this: do not trade public safety and neighborhood protections for private developer convenience. I respectfully ask you to stand with planning staff, protect our neighborhood, and deny this CUP amendment. Thank you for your time.
Next public comment, like to approach. Please say your name and address for the record.
I'm Kathy Austin, and I live at 318 9 Iron Court, and I'm one of the houses that I see the Dollar Tree out of my sliding glass door. I know I've been there 18 years. I used to feel like I lived out in the country, but seeing semi trucks, box truck after box truck unloading and seeing that out of my sliding glass door, there needs to be some kind of a wall there for people that don't, like me, that don't want to see that. I mean, I never dreamed after 18 years that there'd be a Dollar Tree with semis coming in. So that's all I want. Thank you.
Next public comment. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Krista Ryan, and I'm at 306 South 9 Iron Court. My name's Krista. My husband Jeff and I live on 9 Iron Court. We bought a house just a couple of years ago. When we purchased it, it was in the early stage of the business developments behind our street. At that time, the dental office was already open and doing business, and the Dollar Tree had already flagged their property for development, but it wasn't built yet. The blank space was empty, and it has been for now 2 years while we've been watching the Dollar Tree come up. We understood and we accepted that there'd be an increase of traffic and commercial activity near our property when we bought it, but we were also assured that there were really strict CPU screening requirements meant to protect the adjacent homeowners like us. After the Dollar Tree was developed, we attended a metropolitan planning meeting to ask about some building design discrepancies that were in their structure. And during that meeting, we were told that they were going to allow these modifications and that they could have the roof design that they had defined, but the screening requirements would be strictly and immediately enforced for us. And then any future development would include the adequate buffering to protect our nearby homes from the noise, the traffic, and the safety concerns. And that's been over a year, or almost a year right now. If you look at the current view of that loading area that Kathy had sent the pictures out her patio of the trucks that you could see them come in, they don't just pull in and unload. They come in the night before and park and sleep in their camp, in their truck, while they're waiting to unload the next morning when they open. I've seen it on more than one occasion when I was up and happened to drive by in the evening and they were there. This is our view, and it's been like that since they've moved in. And it may be another 2 years before they get that blank parcel developed. And they're making no effort at all to try to help us at least protect our own property. We find ourselves revisiting this issue today, and they're asking that they be discussed as a possible concession rather than a requirement. And I want you to uphold the original intent of the screening requirements and protect our homeowners who are directly affected by the development. And I want to be clear, I use the Dollar Tree. I like businesses close. We're at the age where it's nice to have them in the neighborhood. But as homeowners, we want to make sure that there's a clear and appropriate separation between the business area and our own backyards. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Say your name and address.
Yeah, Brian Artscavicius, 442 South Nine. I don't back up to the area, but I was part of the original complaint whenever Dollar Tree went in. So when Dollar Tree originally went in, architecturally, they didn't meet the CUP standards. So we had to fight that. They fought tooth and nail for it. They put up a sign, the largest one. I've never seen a sign that big. That's not part of this subject here. So let's get on with what we're going to talk about. So in Wichita, the city of Wichita has 8 golden factors used by city of Wichita to determine the reasonableness of the zoning and CUP changes. So number 1 is character of the neighborhood. West Maple Corridor is a key gateway characterized by a balance by professional and commercial use, residential proximity. The existence of screening requirements in DB 225 were established to protect this character. Waiving these requirements introduces an industrial and visual element that is fundamentally out of character with the surrounding areas. Golden rule number 3, suitability and subject to property and current zoning. The property is currently restricted to provide screening in the loading areas. This applicant has not demonstrated that land is unsuitable for the current rules. The requirement to screening loading areas is a standard urban design principle that does not prevent the reasonableness use of this land and is simply to ensure that it does not negatively impact the public. So removing that restriction would impact the public. Factor number 6, relative gain, public versus hardship diversion. There is no public gain in waiving these protections. Benefit is purely cost-saving measure for the developer, and the hardship to the public is permanent. Loss of aesthetic quality and noisier environment. The golden factors dictate that public welfare must outweigh private financial convenience. So I would like to conclude that, you have some rules there, some guidelines that apply to the city of Wichita that show that the developer is trying to overrule. So I would like to leave that.
Hello, Kelly Sheehan. I live in, my wife Teresa, sitting back here, live in residential area. Talking about here, and we're in 310, which is the northernmost house. It's right by Maple and right next to this lot that we're talking about. And we just lived there. We just moved in last July. So we're the new kids on the block, but just wanted to add our voice to the other neighbors' concerns here. And just, so I retired a couple of years ago. And my wife is semi-retired. This is going to be our retirement home. Like I said, we moved in last July. Plan to live the rest of our lives here as much as we can plan to get that. And, one of the things when we were looking at the house, that, of course, the first thing we noticed is the big green Dollar Tree sign right out the back window, which is direct. When I look out our back window, I sit and watch the sunrise some mornings, and that Dollar Tree sign kind of, isn't the best view in the world. That's not what this is about, but there's definitely against any, possibility of waiving that paragraph 3, which is the request that we saw. I don't know it sounds like the request might be slightly different than that, but 100% against waiving that paragraph 3 requirements, obviously for the reasons everybody has stated. So we adamantly oppose that amendment.
like I said, if there's another amendment that's more, spells out more in more detail what exactly they're wanting to do with screening requirements, that's not what we're seeing here, but even that is, going to be, have detrimental impact on our neighborhood, so we are definitely against this amendment.
Thanks. Any other public comment? Any comments or questions from the board of public comments? Staff, at this time, you just need us to make a motion.
I'm available for any questions. You guys talk, but you have the staff recommendation in front of you. Your options are always to go with the staff recommendation. You can also move to approve based on the applicant's request. You can make modifications. Whatever. It's for your recommendation.
At this time, would anybody like to make a motion? And what is your motion?
To go with the staff recommendation.
Do I hear a second?
Can we still ask questions of
Yes.
staff?
Absolutely.
Just curious a little bit about the details of the, I guess, case history with failing to fall in line with the conditional use permit. I know that was brought up. I just want some more details on that.
Yeah, my understanding, I've been involved, I'm not on the zoning enforcement side, but my understanding is that since the development of the Dollar Tree, individuals have filed complaints against the property for not complying with the zoning rules. The applicant gets, property owner gets notice of violation. They have time to correct the problem or seek essentially zoning relief from it. They did not meet those deadlines or things, so it got escalated into a full criminal case, as Mr. Avatari mentioned. It's just a high level. I don't know too many other details other than those are the facts that they did not meet the deadlines to either remedy or start the process of the remedy or get their zoning action involved to the point that notice of violations turned into active criminal cases.
So taking action with the city to try and, I guess, like submit a conditional use permit request, that would count as action.
Yes, so essentially during the zoning violation process, if they were to have filed this application for the first time, they received notice of violation for the loading area screening, that kind of pauses enforcement because our process takes time. And they're actively trying to remedy the situation. Of course, if the application were to fail, they would have to then comply with the details of the address. So, yeah.
Do you want me to come to the podium or? We did throughout that process file administrative adjustment applications. And so part of that delay was waiting through the process of the city planning department determining whether or not they were going to grant that administratively, which typically is a fairly short process. In this case, it got extended out quite a bit, and that was denied. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board and asked, okay, if we do this screening, can we at least make it a wood fence rather than a masonry fence? So then that process had to get played out again as well to make that administrative request, to wait out the time period and to find out whether or not staff was going to approve that. So it was not that we had ignored the notices. We were trying to go through all avenues that we could in order to work through that.
What was the result of the wood fence request?
They were, neither one of those were granted administratively because of any neighborhood opinions. So, but again, it's a process you have to wait through and find out what is the determination. And so once those were not granted, then we went to the next step of filing an administrative, an amendment request, which is where we are.
I'd like a chance to fix the record. If you look at the administrative adjustment applications, they weren't denied because of neighborhood opposition. They were denied because of the adverse impacts it had on the community. Those exhibits are in your file.
Right. The planning staff determined or did not grant the administrative adjustment. for any number of reasons. And, but in order to proceed on to the next level of review, it's proper to first exhaust the first level of review, which is an administrative review. And if that's not granted, then the proper process is to move on to the next level. So that is where we are at here.
I think my last question for you, Seth, would just be, so you are unable to provide a timeline on parcel four's development?
Right, because it's not under contract, it's not being purchased at this point, it's not, but the intent is to develop that as soon as possible. So, and just to clear a couple of things up, that, it's not just us as an applicant saying we will not develop a loading dock on the west side of the property. That language gets clearly defined by you as a DAB and the MAPC, and is part of the legal enforceable requirements of the CUP. So, if that language that we suggested today, which is simply to waive the screening of the red lines and all other provisions of the CUP remain in effect. That's a legal enforceable language that's still part of that CUP. And there are, there's other provisions of the CUP that other properties are not in compliance with. One thing that was discussed was the backing in of the trucks. The trucks would not have to back in if there was connectivity throughout the drive phase of this entire development. That has not taken effect. And that is not our property that hasn't connected to the existing driveway. So, that is a site circulation issue that is not being complied with at this time. So that could help alleviate those issues of the trucks backing up.
I'd like to add that an administrative adjustment wasn't even attempted until the criminal complaint was filed.
Thank you for your comment. At this time, any other follow-up questions?
I just had the observation that how long would the wall be?
53 feet, I think is what
Yeah,
we.
I sat down in the development of the staff report. I sat down with the zoning administrator with that exhibit with the red lines to determine where he determined where the screening wall didn't really screen the loading area. So
how long is a semi?
Semis are 50 feet with trailers, and another 20 foot for the tractors.
So you're still gonna have something sticking out.
the screening wall was meant to screen the loading area, not screen the traffic.
Not screening.
So they're still gonna have a semi at the back door.
The only thing that's going to be screened is really the load where the two doors are.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
I don't get the problem, I guess, because at least visual of seeing it out the back door, because you still see it out the back door.
Right, and this property was zoned commercial, has been zoned commercial for several decades. And commercial encompasses all kinds of business activities, retail, restaurants. So that this is not something.
With strict CPU though. I mean, there are strict rules like
Right, and
walls and.
yeah, the wall will still
Yes.
be the wall will be required on the western portion of the property as that develops as well. So there's.
Unless it's amended and unless.
We are certainly not asking for that. That is not in our request. That's even the original, that's not in our request.
Follow us from the board.
Can you address the other non-compliance that you mentioned or other steps being taken?
That's gonna be up to the enforcement of the city of Wichita, whether or not they choose to selectively and, which parts of the CUP they're going to selectively enforce. Because everything that has come up with our parcel clearly has been enforced and taken action upon by the city, whereas that has not necessarily occurred on other parcels of the CUP.
Any other follow-up? We do have an active motion by Patricia. Patricia, would you like to restate your motion?
Motion to follow the staff recommendation to deny amendment to CPDP 225.
Do I hear a second?
Harry Willis, second.
Second?
Harry Willis.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All those that were here for, you may feel free to leave or stay. That's completely up to you. Now, this next one is, if I remember correctly, double. We're going to tackle this same time. We will need 2 different motions at the end. I know we had the public agenda for the racial profiling board. If y'all would like to waive, or if y'all need to go ahead and speak. Thank you for your patience.
All right, so to clarify, I asked the chair to, essentially, I'm gonna do these last 2 items together because they deal with the same property. And so a lot of the presentation would be the same, and I can discuss both of the requests at the same time. But since they are 2 separate applications, we will do 2 separate motions, one for each case. The reason is they submitted one for the entertainment establishment, that's the conditional use 2026-19. And my understanding is that the information became available that in order to have the tattoo parlor that they're looking for, they needed a zone change because tattoo is not allowed in the current zoning of this district. So they submitted a separate application on a different cycle that just happened to both come to that at the same time. So the property is at the southeast corner of Douglas and Seneca. It is currently zoned Central Business District, and the request together would allow for an entertainment establishment as well as tattoo and body piercing. An entertainment establishment is allowed within the Central Business District zoning by conditional use approval. It is also allowed within general commercial, which is the zone change request, by conditional use approval. So the fact is the conditional use will transfer over even if the zoning underneath it stays. There's no issue that the zoning is coming afterwards because the zone change we're looking for, this use is allowed in that too. So there's no issue on both of them happening at the same time and kind of in separate orders. So that's why I'm going to tackle them both at the same time. An entertainment establishment, it is the opportunity to provide live music when alcohol is present. An entertainment establishment specifically, as of several years ago, has a capacity limit of less than 300. If you start getting 300 and above, you start getting into quote unquote nightclub in the city. Doesn't necessarily make it a nightclub. Entertainment establishment, again, a lot of times we see these as accessory uses for things like restaurants or an event center. Think of like an event center where somebody's going to have a wedding reception, dancing, and a DJ and alcohol present. You've got an entertainment establishment by definition of the zoning code. The reason it's needed is because of single-family residential or zoning and residential zoning in a public park within 300 feet. I believe it's because of Seneca Park that's within 300 feet to the south. So because there's a public park nearby, that's the reason for the conditional use of approval that is being requested. The site plan for the building shows that there's 2 suites. The applicant tends to use one of the suites for an entertainment establishment on the south half of the building, and there would be no entertainment on site. Most that's because the building is built essentially lot line to lot line in all directions. The site would have is subject to section 4C6 of the unit defined zoning test compatibility standards that state that no sound amplification or projected portion shall be permitted. Any properties of neighborhood office more intensive if the music could be heard essentially within 500 feet. So there's noise standards. In addition, there's obviously these cities noise ordinance. Thank you. that's in addition to that. Essentially with things being indoors, it's actually going to insulate, probably not have any detrimental impacts on surrounding properties. The property is also on the historic register. I believe coming up in April, the Historic Preservation Board is going to consider this item since it's an action with it. The Historic Preservation Board has to determine if it's going to have detrimental impacts to the structure of the building. It likely won't because its use is within the building, but they still have to review it anyway. As you're all fairly familiar with the Delano Business District, it is mostly commercial. Properties to the north, Douglas are zone limited industrial. Restaurant property south is zone general commercial. Listed on the Wichita Historic Places and developed with the historic fire station. Property east is zone central business district. It's owned by the applicant and developed with a multi-tenant commercial building. Property to the west across South Seneca is limited commercial and developed as a real estate office. All of these properties are within the Delano overlay. That's a zoning overlay on top, mostly governing architecture. My understanding is not planning any changes to the building. If they did, there would be a separate review with both the Delano board and the Wichita Historic Register, just because it's on the historic register. So that's the entertainment establishment. Let's shift over to the zone change. Again, entertainment establishment with the con would be allowed in general commercial. Though requesting general commercial because tattoo and body piercing is not allowed in the central business district. The earliest zoning classification you can get tattoo and body piercing is general commercial. The good thing is it complies with the requirement that it has to be 200 feet away from a school, park, or residential zoning district. So the thing that required the conditional use was a 300-foot boundary. And within 300 feet, you have the park, but the park's not within 200 feet. So they can have tattoo and body piercing if they get general commercial zoning. As I mentioned before, the conditional use for entertainment establishment is allowed as a conditional use in general commercial. So if they both go forward and be approved, there's no issue. One of the requirements is that all tattoo and body piercing shall be conducted within the building. The staff report lists the changes in development standards regarding building height, setbacks, things like that. One of the interesting things that's going to go on with this property, if it goes to general commercial, is that the building is going to become non-conforming when it comes to setbacks because it's built lot line to lot line. If you go to general commercial, and all of a sudden you're supposed to have a certain amount of space between your property line and the building. It's fairly common, actually, there's still several properties within the Delano Business District that are not zoned central business district and are non-conforming. What that means is, heaven forbid something happened to the building with a disaster or something like that, they essentially would have to take action, a zoning action of some kind in the future in order to rebuild the building. You essentially cannot expand the building or rebuild it without some type of zoning action because you cannot increase the degree of non-conformity. If the building stays as it is, there's really no issue of it being non-conforming within the zoning district. Has nothing related to the uses. It is strictly the building is technically within building setbacks and it's not supposed to be. But we have a lot of non-conforming things in the downtown Wichita area and the Delano area just based on how things were zoned over time. The other thing that comes along with it is the central business district zoning, its current zoning. It's a unique zone in that it's the only zoning district that has a late prohibition against parking requirements. So if you're a zone central business district, you don't have to provide any off-street parking for any use that's allowed within central business. The whole point of that is you think of where central business district zoning is, we don't want to encourage these places to have to demolish buildings next door in order to build parking lots. And so there's just a complete overall waiver of all the parking requirements in central business district. While going to general commercial, they will now be required to provide their standard off-street parking requirement for the uses within their building. You go to the aerial photograph, page 7. My understanding is that the parking lot to the southeast of the building is the one in the blue square. The parking lot to the southeast of the building is owned by the applicant. And essentially capacity of the entertainment establishment, all of these parking, my understanding is that will meet their parking requirement. They will need to get an administrative adjustment. Technically, it's off-site because it's on a separate tax parcel separated by an alley.
But the zoning administrator, with the concurrence of the planning director, can grant 100% of the parking to be off-site as long as it's within 600 feet of the structure, and it's obviously very close. So they will have one more action to take, but you can't pursue that unless the zoning is approved. So that's all detailed in the staff report as well. So we have not heard any public opposition to either application. The conditional use for the entertainment establishment is being considered or was considered on March 26th. Planning Commission recommended approval with a 12-0 vote. And then the zone changes being considered by the Planning Commission this coming Thursday on April 9th. So they are separate cycles and they go to City Council on separate cycles, and that's okay. So with that, I can stand for questions.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, what's the second floor going to be?
I, the applicants, yes, I'll refer to them.
It's a bunch of. Hi, I'm Josh BC, White Natalie. We're one of the tenants. Upstairs, it's a bunch of small private like offices. There are other tenants there operating like I think printing and a hair salon, etc. They're conducting businesses. Yeah, correct. There's no residents upstairs that I'm aware of, at least.
No.
Any other questions or comments? And so first we'll do the conditional use.
Yeah, let's do the conditional use.
And who would like to make a motion for the conditional use?
This time the entertainment establishment.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. And Wally, was that to approve? Was that
To
to
approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then for the zoning change, and who would like to make a motion? Go ahead.
It's so moved.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you guys all. Good evening. Right. And then we do have, we will be moving back to public agenda. We do have Sheila Officer with the Racial Profiling Advisory Board.
Good evening. If I kind of stand right here.
Absolutely.
All right. I wanted to first thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Sheila Officer. I am the chair of the Racial Profiling Board here in Wichita, and we've been in existence since the year 2000. We are a community advocacy board. We are a 501c3 status. We've been working with City Council, our city mayor, our previous city mayor. We are going to be introducing ourselves to our new city mayor, city manager, the end of this month. And then we work with our local law enforcement, whether that's Sheriff Central County, Wichita Police Department, the Kansas Highway Patrol. Our job is to eliminate racial profiling. Our mission is to work with local law enforcement officers in doing so, changing policies, procedures, and practices. Also working with our city councils because they are a very integral, important part in getting policies changed and getting, of course, budgets approved. And we have a lot of concerns about that. So speaking about our mission, we have eliminating racial profiling is not the only thing that we do. We are all about changing policies. We are all about intersecting policy changes with fair government, with hearing voices from the community and engaging and including the community in making the changes that impact this community that we serve. Who we are, if you have that at a glance, we impacted 240,000 Kansas. In Wichita alone, there were 40,000 Wichitans that did not have an active driver's license. Some of them, their driver's license were suspended for 12 and 20 years. We passed in 2025, if I'm not mistaken, Senate Bill 500, which impacted the driver's license bill. It is now a codified part of the statutes that allow over 47,000 people in Kansas, Wichita alone, 240,000 in the state of Kansas, to get what we call a hardship license. It also allowed the courts, when they go to court, to waive any kind of fees. Some people had driver's license suspended 20 years and owed over $15,000. How unfair is that? And when you think about the inconvenience of mass transportation here in Wichita, if you work a second or third shift, you're out of luck. So transportation was very important to these people. It was like we had to argue with legislators to let them know, you know what? You're saying that this is not in your backyard. It's in your backyard. Because it was 240,000 Kansas. And we, with the help of local legislators and a senator that sits on our board, which is Senator Aletha Fausto, with our advocacy and then our lobbying for the bill to be passed, it was passed. And that bill, again, now codified, has been part of Kansas statutes 224606 to 224611. We're very proud of that because it helped a lot of Kansas. And we're still working. Just recently, about 3 weeks ago, the legislative passed Senate Bill 2467, which did some amendments to 500, which allowed what they call a 5-year back look, which means that if your license has been suspended for 10 years, all the state of Kansas can go back to is 5 years. So that's helping a lot of people. And again, we're very proud of that. Us at a glance again, then we did a state representative with Aletha Fausto. She is still helping us. She still sits on this board and has been with us since inception. So we had the late state representative Gail Finney that was also a part of this board. We do have now state representative Ford Carr. In 2015, if I'm not mistaken, 2015, our board found the Tools for Tolerance. It is a certification program for law enforcement. It was out of the state of California. We found that, turned it over to the city, and with the city, we visited California. The city purchased that certification, and all members were mandated from the Wichita Police Department to take racial profiling. So that was their requirement per the statutes to take racial profiling. I'm not really sure now what the racial profiling consists of, but it is not interactive as it needs to be, because now you can do it online and just sign off at the end. That, we believe, is not sufficient. So we will be talking again with City Council as well as the Wichita Police Department about getting a different kind of training to making sure the officers actually understand what racial profiling is and what it looks like. All right, let's see. Again, a community-based board. We wanted to introduce ourselves to you. Every member of our board is visiting each one of the DAB meetings to let them know who we are, what we do, and invite them to come to one of our meetings. We meet every third Thursday, as the flyer says, at the now Carl Brule Center, and we invite you to attend. Join us. It is an open board. All you need to do is to have the passion for change and wanting to change and make an impact in your community. I am open for questions if you have them.
Thank you, Ms. Officer. Any comments or questions?
All right, we did pass out some brochures. Please visit our website at www.racialprofilingwichitakansas.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I do apologize for our lateness, error on my part. Thank you again.
You are absolutely fine. Thank you so much. All right, and moving on to board agenda is, yep, looks like he is online. Councilman Glasscock, would you like to give us a report for City Hall?
Hey everyone, sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I was in transit trying to get back for tomorrow's city council meeting. So thanks for being engaged tonight. And thanks and welcome to the new board members as well. I don't really have anything to report to you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'll let you guys enjoy your evening. And I hear it's really nice in Wichita tonight. So
anybody have any questions or comments for the councilman?
Yeah, what was results of his meeting with the Goddard School Board?
Wally asked if what was the results of the meeting with the Goddard School Board?
the last meeting I was at with Dr. Henry was the larger state of the district address. So it was just his annual report. Him and I have not had a one-on-one meeting yet. So that's still coming up. I think that's scheduled mid-April.
Okay. Are they still planning to put this bond issue up again?
Yes, I believe that they're still planning on moving forward with that.
Any other questions from the board? No? Dalton, stay safe, man.
Jory, hey, good job chairing the meeting tonight.
Thank you. All right, and if nobody has anything else, make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Thank you.